Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live from the TPA USA, or TP USA conference, ladies and gentlemen. AmFest, if you will. America First, baby. I dig it. We're in Phoenix, Arizona, and man, there's people everywhere. It's incredible. It's a crowd, to say the least. But if you can't make it, ladies and gentlemen, just so you understand, you can watch the proceedings live on Rumble coming up. Check it out. Anyway, we're going to be there. We're going to be meeting a lot of people. It's going to be a phenomenal time. We're delighted to be here. We were talking last hour with Heath Perkins over at freewatercoinco.com, doing a phenomenal job, by the way, breaking down the realities of honest money and honest weights and measures, as the Bible calls it, and the dollar's in bad shape with silver and gold at an all-time high, virtually speaking. But Eldon, it's kind of interesting. People wonder about jobs, and they believe AI is going to take their jobs all away. And I agree that AI is going to change the landscape, but people don't really realize it's already happened to a great degree. And if we can just handle this and adjust, listen to this latest report from LinkedIn. LinkedIn estimates that 20% of Americans working jobs right now did not exist in the year 2000. Okay? They say this is attributed largely to advances in artificial intelligence, or AI. So 20% of the people now have jobs that didn't even exist in the year 2000, just literally 25 years later. That's a startling number to me. And it also kind of proves my point that, everybody believes with AI they're going to be out of a job. It's going to be horrible. There's going to be robots doing all the work. We're going to walk around with, it isn't true. There's a lot of jobs that will go away because of AI. That's no doubt. But there's also a lot of jobs that are getting created because of AI. They say among these positions, they have very weird kind of new jobs. They're calling it, hey, you got toxicology. There's this guy his name is Brad Peoples. He's a toxicology analyst. He says, my job didn't exist the way it is now. Because he says, believe it or not, I use AI to generate a lot of my reports. I vet them for accuracy, and then I provide guidance on cleanups for a lot of these toxicology things. And AI is a big part of my job now, whereas it wasn't before. Others are called knowledge architects, and these knowledge architects are, they're basically saying, hey, we use AI and we help companies with decision making. Okay, we got to make sure that the AI agents, reflect common realities in business, that they don't go out in the weeds and hallucinate. It's my job to kind of work on that as a, quote, knowledge architect. They have AI conversationalists, orchestration engineers, and all these different terms, but they're all basically AI-generated new jobs where you got to babysit the AI, you got to make sure it stays, flies, I don't know what you want to call it, under the radar, between the rails, or whatever you want to say. It stays in the lines.
Yep.
Because it can go out in the weeds. There's a lot of jobs related to that. And I think there's going to be nothing but more jobs. I mean, who's going to run all these different data centers? I mean, AI bots don't just run themselves. Somebody's got to maintain them and make sure they haven't been hacked. And somebody's got to provide security. And somebody's got to provide, uptime guarantees. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I think we're seeing a massive shift, just like the Industrial Revolution, Eldon. But I don't believe jobs are going to go away. But 20% of the jobs, they say now, this is LinkedIn, hey, they didn't even exist in 2000. That's a big number.
Yeah, it is pretty significant, Sam. And I think, you remember when, I don't know, social media came out. Now we got a lot of people actually working in social media trying to optimize the presence of this or that organization or company in social media and communicate with people in a new way. And, those are jobs. Those are real. I don't know how high paying they are. It depends on what exactly somebody does. But those are things that people do now, just as one of many examples a person could give.
I think it's important to realize that the world used to be based on just manufacturing and farming, if you will, agriculture, manufacturing, that kind of stuff. Nowadays, there's a lot of different jobs that are out there that I think are vital to the economy, too, in many ways. I think we need to really stick with our manufacturing base and really stick with our agricultural base if we want a real solid economy. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. If there's no electricity, half the jobs that we're talking about won't be there. Okay. And we also need to kind of realize that when it comes to, jobs that matter, at the end of the day, I just need shelter, food, clothing, and fuel. If I have those four fundamentals, I can stay alive and do okay. Without those, I'm in serious, serious trouble. But Donald Trump has done something that I think is kind of interesting. I don't know how for it I am. It depends on, what do they call it? The devil's in the details oftentimes, right? But the Trump administration initiated a new thing called the Tech Force, a government-wide program aimed at promoting AI integration to ensure Americans maintain technological leadership. It was announced by the Office of Personnel Management, OPM. The initiative, they say, will deploy professionals that are involved in AI and everything else from major tech firms. They'll be partnering with federal agencies, and the goal to eliminate and enhance government operations. So you eliminate, I don't know what you want to say, government entities and or processes that aren't working right. You put in better processes that can enhance government operations. If it's in the hands of the right people, that can be really cool. In the hands of the wrong people, it just means a leaner, meaner, more effective abuse of government is what it means. If you're not careful, that's my hesitation. But OPM plans to hire, they say, 1,000 tech experts, and then it'll be temporary, and then they'll have potential government roles thereafter as the, I don't know what you want to call it, the organization cranks up, whatever you want to call it. The Tech Force, they say, will collaborate with about 25 huge technical giants. Amazon Web Services, Adobe, Dell Technologies, IBM. I mean, the list just goes. Microsoft, Oracle. I mean, it keeps going. And they say the goal is to maintain competitiveness and innovating government infrastructure. Applications are open, they say, at techforce.gov. And they want to have the recruitment completed by early 26. And they say this effort is part of President Trump's auto AI strategy. Anyway, he wants to control regulation. And in the right hands, this could be really cool, where the government could, be involved in making sure there's a level playing field. The government, I don't have any problem with using AI to streamline governmental responsibilities. Again, technology is neither good nor bad. It's either going to be really, really great in the hands of the right people and really, really awful in the hands of the wrong people, Eldon.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well, Sam. What James Madison said is the very definition of tyranny is the putting the executive, legislative, and judicial powers all in the same hands. And we've already got that in a lot of ways with the administrative state. Do we want to kind of put that on autopilot with AI? That's a potential, of course, danger there. But of course, yes, there's a lot of potential savings with efficiency, but there's no real glory or anything great to be gotten out of a more efficient tyranny. That's nothing to I think aspire to.
I think that's right. And I think unless we put guardrails on AI big time, and let me explain, I'm a little bit of a technological architect myself to a great degree. I am a consultant, a strategist for IT. I work with all kinds of businesses, help them know what technologies to embrace, how to make sure they're secure while they embrace those technologies, et cetera. And one of the things that we really need to teach AI is the incredible checks and balances in the supreme law of the land, the Constitution. We need to really double down and make sure that if we're going to use AI to help government, that AI can keep government on the separation of powers doctrine or requirements or whatever.
Yeah.
Not only at the general government level, judicial and executive and legislative, but I'm talking about between the general government and the states. The general government has very limited, defined, delegated authority. It's powerful, but it's limited. Whereas the states have a lot more of a broad-based authority. And the people have sovereignty. And so these AI bots, agents, whatever words you want to use for them, models, et cetera, they need to really understand the Constitution and be taught the checks and balances and understand, hey, when are the lines being blurred? Because what we don't want is AI, judge, jury, and executioner automated. Then what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, so that's kind of the problem that I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
If we're not very, very careful, that can be obliterated in a hurry. And if AI gets too steeped in ignoring these separations of powers or these separate delegations, then we're in real trouble, Eldon.
Oh yeah, we are. You're talking about running the guillotine by a steam engine.
All right, this is Sam Bushman. Hang tight. Liberty Roundtable live in seconds on your favorite talk station.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, "By having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids."
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So, Eldon, I think that there's a lot to this. I think there's a lot of good coming from Trump's efforts. I think if we're not very careful, though, it could backfire big time, though. We don't need the government cranking up new organizations involved in new issues.
Yeah, it's the potential for abuse is, the difficult thing with the machines is kind of like, we've talked for the last several years about voting by machine. Well, is that bad per se? No, but the thing is, identifying and correcting errors or abuse becomes exponentially more difficult for the average person. And basically that translates into concentrating the power over elections in the hands of the few and exponentially increasing the potential for abuse, which usually means that abuse occurs more often.
That is a big concern. And so I don't mean to be negative on it. I'm not trying to down what President Trump's trying to do. I just, again, when you start saying we're going to hire 1,000 more government agents that are at the helm of tech, look, tech's already put us in a bind. Tech's already been dishonest in their assertions of power and authority. They don't answer to anybody. They obliterate the checks and balances. They, they have no, pardon the pun, anybody watching them or overlord or whatever you want to call it. It's very, very concerning in my opinion, because the more you give tech authority and power over our society, they don't have the same rules. They don't have the same guidelines. They don't have the same separation of authority and powers. And, we don't seek for power, folks. We seek to pull it down. But the tech industry certainly seeks for power. The evidence is everywhere, right? And so we need to be really careful with this. I understand the point Trump's making, and I'm not against him. We got to be really careful how this thing unfolds. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, there's a fly in the ointment, Eldon.
Yeah, the thing is, the government shouldn't be doing so many things that it's already doing. And rather than saying, oh, the way to fix this problem is to delegate that to machines, to put it on autopilot, to reduce the number of personnel you need to implement it, we should be looking once again at scaling back so much of the stuff that the government's doing so that there's no excuse or need for saying, okay, now we're going to have to do it with AI because it just takes so many people to do it.
There you have it. All right, one of the issues I think government ought not be involved in at all is health care, for example. And the Democrats have created the Affordable Care Act, which is now Donald Trump's calling it the Unaffordable Care Act. And, we've told you this was disaster for a long time. The sad part is they want to blame it on Obama. Certainly he deserves a lot of the blame, but so does Mitt Romney. He was the Republican that first cranked up the equivalent of Obamacare in his own state of Massachusetts back in the day. So, I don't know if you want to call it Romney care, but either way, both Republicans and Democrats have led us into this government involved in the health care example. And I gave the example earlier of back in the day, the government, there was people wanted to be paid more and government had a handle on preventing that, but yet you could work around that by providing health care and other benefits. And well, it's disaster. Now, the Affordable Care Act, they're not wanting to renew it, but now government wants to hand money straight to you, in these HSAs or, healthcare savings accounts or whatever else. And I think it's better than the alternative, but I think neither of them are good. Why do they have to have government involved in healthcare? And why do we have to have a government-controlled healthcare savings account? And why do we have to have, the government sending money straight to my account? Look, don't take money from me. Just leave me alone. Just get out of the way and leave me alone. But there's a new Gallup poll out about this very topic. They say that 70% of Americans, according to this new Gallup poll, are dissatisfied with the U.S. healthcare system. The poll was conducted from November the 3rd to November 25 with a margin of error of plus or minus 3%. So it's a pretty good poll. 23% of respondents view the system as being in a state of crisis. Amen to that. Then they say 47% see it having, quote, major problems. So I don't know the difference between crisis mode or major problems, but, one and the same to me. That's a massive number. 29% of respondents identified the cost of health care as the nation's most urgent health issue. Think about that. Bipartisan concerns, they say, show that 81% of Democrats and 81% of Democrats, 64% of Republicans believe that it's just a serious, serious problem. The House of Representatives now is considering a bill. They want a health care premiums for all Americans Act. See, I don't want that. They go on and on. But the bottom line is, look, what we need to do is get government out of the middle of our health care. Okay, what government could do is say, hey, we want a level playing field. You cannot offer this discount to this big corporation at the expense of this person. Or, if you're a wealthy person. So in New York, they're trying to do this. I can't remember what the term is. It's a certain kind of pricing where they assess you as a person. And if you're wealthy like Eldon, then the cost is more. If you're poor like Sam Bushman, the cost will be less or whatever and stuff. Okay, those things avoid the level playing field that I'm speaking of. The government should say no. You can't walk in and if the guy's got a tie on, the state costs more than if he doesn't wear a tie. Pardon the example. Sure. That's just the simplicity point being made. Yeah. We don't want to assess us or track us or know about us and then adapt pricing. Look, you just need to, as a company, find margins that make your company prosper. Find margins that are, good enough to do well for your company. That's fine. To prosper, to grow, but at the same time, not so abusive that. And then we just need the free market to say, hey, I want to go to this place. They're honest. They're fair. Let the American people decide. And I want the same thing with healthcare. I don't need government in the middle of healthcare. Right now, the problem is everybody goes to the government healthcare negotiated, Medicaid, Medicare, whatever government healthcare services, and they kind of set the price for everybody else, and everybody else basically is, government price plus this or government price this or that, and the government controls. That's why when you go to get healthcare, you can't even find out what it costs. It'd be like going to a restaurant and how much is a steak? I don't know. We'll tell you later. Don't worry about it. Just get the steak, and later we'll tell you, in 90 days we'll tell you how much your steak costs. I mean, that's the way the healthcare industry works. All government needs to do is create a level playing field and say, hey, you will deliver your price, and you're not going to discriminate who comes in. Here's your price. If you want to offer a cash price versus a payment plan price or whatever, fine. There's, if you're providing an extra service like a payment plan, it's fine to charge more. But we're going to be transparent in our pricing. You're going to be able to tell people instantly what the price is. When you go to the hospital, hey, we're going to give you an aspirin, Sam. Great. How much does that aspirin cost? Well, Sam, it's $29. Are you off your rock? My wife will be here in a minute. She's got aspirin in her purse. Thank you. Okay, that's the kind of stuff that needs to happen. Candid, transparent discussions and a level playing field. That's all we really need from government, Eldon. And other than that, they got to just get out of the way. But see, even the Republicans, they want to do it their government socialist way, right? Not the Democrat way, but their way. Neither way, in my opinion, support the Founding Fathers' understanding of we don't want government to do anything for us that we can't do for ourselves. We just don't. And the more government's out of the way, the better off our lives are. The founders understood that clearly. We need to get that in our modern day head sooner than later. Eldon?
Yeah, they certainly did. For somebody who wants to kind of dig into this subject a little bit more, I would certainly recommend you go on YouTube, look up Medicine Leads the Way, a speech by Robert Welch. It's called Medicine Leads the Way by Robert Welch. Really goes into why the socialists, the Fabians, the revolutionaries, why they used health care as a key in socializing, making a country over into a big government Marxist type of a state. Medicine Leads the Way. Such a good insight. And it's not a new strategy. It's a very old strategy. But people want to, think, oh, yeah, we have this new thing called Obamacare. Well, no, if you really know history, this is just the latest iteration of a long revolution going on to, under the pretense of compassion for people, which is a very popular way, to get people to acquiesce to new government programs and powers, to expand the government into probably the most intimate parts of our lives, even life and death.
Well, and the founders understood the reason they chose health is because, listen, if you have your freedom, your agency to choose, and you have good health, there's no limit to the quality of life you can enjoy. But if your health tanks or if your ability to enjoy the fruits of your labors goes away, in other words, they shatter your bread bowl is the term a lot of economists like to use. Hey, if my health is bad or they've shattered my bread bowl, in either case, I'm in serious trouble. But if you just get out of the way and make sure that I have a fair play, in other words, a fair, honest game, then I can do great at the table. But if you manipulate things in a way that either affects my health and or my bread bowl, my ability to produce, now you've tampered on some sacred ground there. And the founders understood this. It's something that's been obliterated in modern times. We don't really get that. We kind of think things are better if we have a universal basic income or if we have a government-provided health care or this or that. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes away personal incentive. If I have to be responsible for my own health, I think maybe I don't need that second round. Maybe I shouldn't drink that 17th drink on Friday night, right? I don't drink, by the way. I'm just making a point. People take personal responsibility for that. If you don't believe me, go ask Governor Bradford in days of old. He learned this principle very succinctly and quickly because they were facing starvation. They were all about to die, and they said, hey, every man for themselves, but I'll make sure you get the opportunity. That was the solution. All right, hang tight. Elden Stahl with me, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about thenewamerican.com and Liberty Roundtable Live.
Exposing corruption, informing citizens, pursuing liberty. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Catching the experts by surprise, consumer prices rose less than expected last month.
The Labor Department reports the Consumer Price Index was up 2.7% in November year over year, but trending downward from the September report, which came in at 3.0 and nearer to the Fed's 2% target for inflation. The numbers leapfrogged the month of October, making this the first report on current figures since the end of the government shutdown.
Correspondent George Williams. President Trump says he's working hard to fix a mess he was handed by the Biden administration, and that includes working to make life more affordable for Americans.
Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. The last administration and their allies in Congress looted our Treasury for trillions of dollars, driving up prices and everything at levels never seen before. I am bringing those high prices down and bringing them down very fast.
Mr. Trump addressing the nation last night from the White House. The FBI's number 2 official plans to resign next month.
FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino's planned resignation in January would be among the highest-profile departures of the Trump administration. The president suggested Bongino would return to his prior role as a popular podcast host.
Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show.
Bongino was an unconventional pick to be the FBI's second in command. Though he had previously worked as a New York City police officer and Secret Service agent, he had no prior experience at the Bureau. Greg Clugston, the White House.
A $901 billion defense spending bill is on its way to President Trump's desk after clearing the Senate, winning final congressional approval there. On Wall Street, the Dow is up 421 points. The NASDAQ higher as well. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-366-6161. That's 800-366-6161. 800-366-6161.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman, Elden Stahl. Donald Trump Jr., I guess, announced that he's getting engaged to Patina Anderson is her name. It was announced at a White House holiday party. And the interesting thing about this, the reason I bring it up is because, you know, Donald Trump's been married, Jr. has been married before. And now he was dating Kimberly Guilfoyle for a long time. She was Gavin Newsom's former wife. So it's very strange indeed. Now he's got this this lady here. And Miss Anderson is a socialite from Florida. And I guess she's got a degree in art preservation. She's an art critic, etc. Palm Beach, Florida socialite. Her dad is a big-time insider banker, international banker guy. Her mom is a businesswoman, and she's basically a socialite, and she's been involved in all kinds of interesting philanthropy efforts and everything else. And I don't really have any criticism of that. It's a little concerning when you start marrying wealthy banker family people and stuff like that. But hey, you know, I guess elites marry elites is kind of the thing. But at the end of the day, I wish them well. I don't mean to criticize this. I'm just telling you that's who she is. That's kind of the summary. She's never been married before. She doesn't have any kids. So it ought to be a clean marriage for Donald Jr. And, you know, if he's going to run for president, he's going to have to get hitched and get that kind of stuff squared away. So I don't think he's doing it for that reason alone, and I don't mean to suggest that. I'm just saying to you that, hey, if he gets stable and he's married to a good woman and, they just deliver well and they can, it gives him a greater chance at the upper echelons of American politics, if you will. What do you say to that one, Eldon?
Well, of course, I would congratulate them. I sure hope this is a very good and lasting marriage. It's just a blessing for anybody to have that.
Yeah, I think for sure for Donald, I hope it's a match made in heaven. I hope they can have longevity together and have one another's backs and do well. And anyway, I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think it's great that he's found someone he can be with. And I just hope it's a wonderful, experience for all. I hope everybody can get along and she merges, I should say, into the Trump family just fine and all that kind of stuff. Laura Trump, Eric Trump's wife, has been around for a long time, and she's pretty savvy in politics and everything else too. As you know, she does a radio and TV podcast that's syndicated by Salem and a bunch of great things like that too. So maybe he's found the woman that can do that with Don Jr. Like Eric's done. We hope for that. We hope it's a stable go forward thing. And anyway, I think it's pretty cool, and I just want to give a big old shout out of support for them and to them. All right, the New York State Gaming Commission. This is a sad tale to tell, Eldon. The New York State Gaming Commission awarded licenses for 3 full-sized casinos in New York City. The locations include, they call it a Queens Ballpark, a Bronx golf course, formerly operated by President Trump's company, by the way, and they call it a slot parlor near John F. Kennedy's International Airport there. I think this is disaster. They say the licenses come with a condition requiring an appointed external monitor to ensure compliance with state law. The move is backed by New York Governor Kathy Hochul, and they say that it'll basically crank up all kinds of revenue for the state's transit system. And it'll be, additional job creation. The projects, they say, will generate an estimated $7 billion in gambling tax revenues. and $1.5 billion in licensing fees by 2036. Why they use weird out numbers like that are beyond me. 10 years later, what it's supposed to bring in. They say it's part of a 2023 deal. Trump, by the way, could receive a significant financial benefit now that this has happened. So I don't know if it has to do with his golf business or whatever, but he's heavily involved in New York and everything else. So whatever happens, Trump stands to benefit for sure. But I like all other gambling scenarios, all other immoral games of chance, or where somebody's given a special privilege over the rest. Look, these gaming houses have special privileges. They can make sure they never lose money, which means they can rig the outcome of the games. So I've got a problem with all this, and I think the more we enact gambling or accept gambling in society, I believe it'll grind the face of the poor. It's just a disaster, Eldon, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, gambling's often been called a tax on fools. It's a great opportunity, of course, for government to get money from people, and by making it fun, basically, and fun to pay taxes, essentially. And so that's how you get the government on board with supporting, because ultimately, when the government starts to care more about money and power, which is a big draw for government, but when the people become less moral and not understanding the essential aspect of having morality as part of liberty, and really you can't have liberty without morality, as the founders knew, then you go into let's erode the work ethic, which was also a bedrock of foundation for America, the idea of industry, of productivity. Then you just get involved in things that are exchange of money and making that fun to do. And of course, the only way you ultimately win at the casino is to own the casino. If you know that, then why would you ever go to the casino?
Well, the thing is, that's kind of what I mean by fraud, is that the casino's given special privilege permission to be on the winning side all the time. Just not to win too much. You got to have regulations. See, they can't win too much, but they also can't not win enough. Now, if you get good at the game and you don't cheat, but you know how to count cards and you know how to whatever, you're really, really good at math, really good at the game, they won't even let you in. So if you can ever beat the house consistently, they'll just simply say, hey, you're off limits. You can't play anymore. We can kick you out. It's a form of discrimination because, hey, government-controlled dishonesty doesn't like competition is really the bottom line with that. But the point is, if you had all these smart gamblers that knew what they were doing that could beat the house would eventually go under. So the whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. It's dangerous. And New York, in my opinion, I mean, the place is already, in my opinion, New York's a really cool place. Really cool things. But, man, to live there, I'm sure would be a heck hole. It's expensive as all get out. Places to live are tiny. It's just expensive and crowded and fraught with crime and everything else. You're going to make this much worse. This is going to get – you think you've gone for it's the frying pan into the fire, Eldon. No.
Yeah, I mean, gambling in a way is similar to other industries such as tourism. And I don't mean to bash on people that are in the tourism or industry, but really – these industries, they do not create real wealth in the sense of having things that are tangible, that are of actual value. It's a service, you might say, an entertainment type of a thing, but it doesn't create real wealth in the sense of having, producing something from the ground, mining it, any of those types of things, building something of use. It's simply just playing a game. It has just as much value as if you and I would play Monopoly, other than real money changes hands. But it would be a Monopoly if the game was rigged, though. If I went into a Monopoly game with you and they said Sam Bushman's the house. Yeah, in a way, it's worth Monopoly, right? You're not gonna have a fair play. By any means. And so anyway, our prayers are with the folks of New York, but I think they've made a big mistake allowing this to be the case. And other places have done this. You see this on reservations a lot, right? Yep. And a lot of times the Native Americans on the reservations, they're desperate for something that can actually bring in money, which it does bring in money, but does it create real wealth? No. No, it's just a transfer of wealth. It's a variety of socialism, which is why so many socialist countries or areas, they get involved in, gambling. They're big tourist places. They really don't create anything of wealth. They're just involved in the transfer of wealth.
What they do is they basically grind the face of the poor.
Yeah.
And then they usually take that money and then it gets handed back out in the name of education.
Yeah.
Or the name of transportation, or we put some good packaging on it and pretend
or they
that it's
inflate
somehow
the currency.
benefiting society. Right.
Yeah. They just print a bunch of money and people say, oh, our paychecks are bigger, So it's one of the many, is counterfeit wealth. There's so many counterfeits.
There you have it. But the government doesn't like competition, so that's why that you can legalize a house for gambling. But if I rent a gambling ring, I can't do that. No, sir.
Yeah.
Got to have the government involved, and they got to get their piece of that pie, right? When we come back,
Yeah.
I've got the weirdest story to tell you. It's all about the communists in China and America and the great state of Missouri, okay? I'll tell you about it in seconds. You're listening to Liberty Roundtable Live.
My brother and two other boys were the ones that got in the car with her, and she was drunk. The road that goes to her house is like really windy, and she was taking that road at 80 to 100 miles per hour and hit into the road barriers. Her door flung open. She ran out across the street to get away from it, and the other three boys were trapped in it, and the car exploded. And then when my mom found out about it, she called me at work. I don't care what you have to do, just get up here to the hospital. I parked my car and I went inside, and they took us back to this little room. My mom told me that Jay had been killed, and I lost it. The other people, they're like, well, you can drink, but just be careful when you drink, So I don't want anything to do with it, because it took my brother away from me.
A public service message from The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
All right, back with you live. So I find this to be a very strange story. So back in the COVID days, people were mad at the communists because the communists knew about the COVID con before everybody else, and they blocked access to information, and they were very difficult indeed. Well, so here's the deal. China now has filed a $50 billion counter lawsuit. You heard me, counter lawsuit against the state of Missouri and the former Attorney General Eric Schmidt. But they filed it in a Chinese court, okay? Alleging defamation and economic losses due to Missouri's 2019 lawsuit. It's like, what? That's right. So China has filed a lawsuit in their own courts, in the Chinese courts. And they filed it in response to, so it's a counter lawsuit to the 2019 lawsuit that Missouri filed against the communists in China. But the Missouri state filed it in the United States courts. So this follows a March ruling where the judge ruled that the state of Missouri could receive $24 billion in damages from Beijing, China, for hoarding what they call COVID-19 protective equipment. The countersuit now, though, demands compensation and public apologies from the defendants in both the U.S. and the Chinese media. So now they want to basically sue the state of Missouri. They want to sue the former attorney general. They want to have all the media of communist media, Chinese media, and United States media issue apologies. Missouri Attorney General now, Catherine Hanaway, has committed to collecting the awarded $24 billion by seizing Chinese-owned assets within the state of Missouri. The countersuit was filed by, they call it the Wuhan Municipal Government, the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. I guess it was in the Intermediate People's Court in Wuhan is where this lawsuit happens. So the bottom line is that they're suing us in China. We sued them in the United States. The problem with all this is international law doesn't really transfer that way. You can't just sue in an American court and have the Chinese honor it because it breaches sovereignty. You can't sue, the Chinese can't sue us and have us because we're not going to honor their laws or their rules or their rulings, right? So it's a very strange international case. The point is, though, that, hey, the state of Missouri felt like China was problematic. They withheld, they hoarded protective equipment and everything else, all these things. $24 billion awarded in the United States. Then China comes back and sues, and now they want $50 billion. The state of Missouri says they're going to help get the money. What they're going to do is they're going to freeze assets and land and this and that in the United States. If you're not very careful, back in the day, this COVID con lawsuit, counter lawsuit, lawfare, whatever, it's going to possibly be the tenets of a, war? I pray the answer is no, but I'm just telling you, this is very strange, Eldon.
Yeah, it is. Although maybe we shouldn't be terribly surprised by it. China has, it's a communist, it's called Communist China for a reason. And we should not lose track of what that actually means. These are folks that do not respect any rules. This is not just a good faith effort to try to, get back some injury or something like that. But and the danger in a way is, okay, somebody's bound to say, well, let's refer this over to The Hague, to the International Criminal Court, to try to, or not the criminal court, the International Court of Justice, it's called at The Hague, and to try to resolve this dispute. Well, that opens up another can of worms.
We've got dueling sovereignties here, and we got to have somebody adjudicate this that's a third party offering fairness in the discussion, right? That's how they'll go.
Yeah, as if the International Court of Justice would offer any fairness because it's stacked with people that are socialists. And, well, yes, there's a lot of socialists in the United States government, unfortunately, but the communist government of China is openly communist, which is socialist, but with a violent
it's like hardcore socialism, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Socialism with a death penalty.
There you go. Yeah. So,
anyway, very strange story. We'll see where this heads. I pray it doesn't go international court style and everything else. But again, people are going to push for a redress of grievance at some point, and where they can go for that, hey, I don't know where China goes, and I don't know where the United States goes when push comes to shove, unless it's some kind of... So we have a very big risk, as Eldon wisely warns, about things going international and it violating or breaching the sovereignty and setting a court case precedent, if you're not very careful, that, hey, there is a global court that's above everybody else. Which is ad propaganda. It's false. It goes completely against the supreme law of our land, and we've got to warn against it, to say the least. Two more quick stories before the end of the hour. The first one... I guess newly classified documents have shed light on the FBI's controversial raid. What was it, a 2022 raid of Mar-a-Lago where they went in, did all this stuff? Well, now there's internal emails that are exchanged between the FBI and the DOJ officials and everything else. And the bottom line is they said, hey, we don't have any evidence. We don't have any probable cause that we should do this. And others said, we don't care. They warned that investigators had developed what they call very little evidence. And so, anyway, it goes back and forth. The bottom line is the Justice Department, through Biden, pushed to have this happen, even though many people in the FBI were saying, hey, wait a minute, there's no justification. You shouldn't be able to do this. There's a less aggressive and solution-oriented alternative to this. We can get a hold of Trump's lawyers, work through this, no problem. But as weeks passed, frustration inside the FBI grew. And they say, well, we haven't generated any new facts, but keep pushing on this, pushing. And then perhaps most striking, there was a government internal message revealing that the Washington FBI office told DOJ officials, hey, we don't believe we have any probable cause here. Despite those internal warnings, the raid went forward, stunning the country. Newly revealed emails basically says it was driven by political pressure, not by solid evidence. The decision was made to carry out the raid, even though the FBI did not believe it was legally justified. So my question is this, figuratively speaking, whose head's going to roll for this one, Eldon?
Well, that's a good question, because we need to treat the U.S. Constitution as the supreme law of the land. It specifically says in the Fourth Amendment, no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Did that happen in this case? It seems not. That it was more of a, if there was any warrant, it was a general warrant, not a particular warrant, and there was no probable cause. So,
not only was there no probable cause, there was evidence suggesting that they knew they did not have a probable cause. So the opposite in spades.
Even worse. Right. So this would be, I'm not sure how you would classify such a crime, but basically it was a gross abuse of power, and a violation of rights maybe, or conspiracy to violate rights because they knew and they were secretly really conspiring to violate the rights of President Trump and others at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, the bottom line is it's so bad, though, inside the FBI, and there's no accountability to the point where everybody's frustrated. And now Dan Bongino decided that he's quitting the FBI. He announced via a post on X that he will resign from his position in January. He expressed his gratitude to President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, and Director Kash Patel for the opportunity to serve. He thanks the American people. And President Trump suggested that, hey, Dan might be leaving so he can get back to his broadcasting. He loves his podcast. Bongino has previously expressed being profoundly impacted by undisclosed findings from ongoing investigations, basically stating, hey, you know what? We've got a weaponization of these organizations and we're not solving problems. And he's expressed frustration about this in the past, how much he'll talk versus how much the government let him go, but said, hey, loose lips sink ships. You better be quiet or you're in trouble. I don't know that. So how much Dan will explain, I don't know. What'll happen to Kash Patel now as a result of all that, I don't know. Personally, I wish Dan Bongino would have stayed and Pam Bondi would have gone. But now we have one less good guy in government, in my opinion. And I think it's a sad day, Eldon.
Yeah, and it seems like my guess, of course, there's always speculation, that he just felt that there was no other viable alternative for him. So sometimes that's the case. But wish him well.
Yeah, amen. And that's why I specifically say that I feel bad about this, because, again, I'm not telling you Dan Bongino's perfect or whatever, but I think he's one of the better people there by far. And when he just simply throws up his hands and said, I'm out of here, I just can't take it anymore, that's a bad sign. So when Trump and everybody else telling me that, hey, government's on the right track, we're doing great, we've cleaned up, we've drained the swamp, we're good, and not according to Dan Bongino, ladies and gentlemen. And if I have to trust Dan or any other word I hear from inside government, I'm sticking with Dan personally. What do you say, Eldon?
Yeah, me too.
All right, there you have it. If you want to learn more about the John Birch Society, jbs.org is their incredible website. Check out their incredible magazine, Great reporting, by the way, over at thenewamerican.com. That's thenewamerican.com. For Elden Stahl, field coordinator for the John Birch Society, and yours truly, I'm Sam Bushman. Thanks for being alongside for the ride. Hopefully it was educational and entertaining. We are syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Networks, lovingliberty.net. Spread the word, share the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America.